American Girl, the historical doll line that has been on every girl's wishlist since the release in 1986. Although I never got an American Girl doll, let's face it, I probably wouldn't have played with it anyway, I was a fan of the many books about American Girl's historical characters, and today we're going to be ranking all of my favorites. Unfortunately, I won't be ranking every historical character because I just haven't read all of their books. But with that being said, let's introduce our tier list categories. So at the top, we have our tier for the best American Girl characters ever. Right below that, we have childhood favorites. Below that, we have Follow Your Inner Star, Pleasant Company, and then our worst tier is Don't Follow Your Inner Star. So now that we have our categories, let's get into the ranking. Felicity Merriman was American Girl's Revolutionary War era doll, with her story being set in Williamsburg in 1774. As a kid, Felicity was my favorite American Girl character. Like me, she had red hair, was a tomboy, and loved horses. I loved getting Felicity's books from the library, and the book about her best friend Elizabeth was pretty good too. I'm not sure whether one of the reasons I liked Felicity was because I just enjoyed the Revolutionary War time period, or if Felicity is one of the reasons I became interested in that era in the first place. Having said all that, it seems like I would rank Felicity as high on this list as possible, but as an adult, I have mixed feelings about her. I still think she lived in an interesting time period, and I love her and Elizabeth's outfits, especially Elizabeth's pink dress. But on the other hand, Felicity is really irresponsible and selfish. Sure, she's only 9 years old, but her younger sister Nan, who we're supposed to think is annoying, seems a lot more helpful to their mom. Due to Felicity's tomboyish character traits, she doesn't want to help her mom with girly work. A child avoiding work is one thing, but making it seem cool because Felicity's not like other girls isn't a theme I can get behind as an adult. Also, Felicity stole a horse, but for the sake of time, we're not going to get into that. I'm going to rank Felicity as a childhood favorite because if she wasn't, I'd have to rank her as Don't Follow Your Inner Star because her inner star isn't leading her the right way. Our next character is Josefina Montoya, whose story is set in 1824. Josefina lives on her family's rancho with her 3 older sisters and their father as they try to cope with life after the girl's mother has died. Growing up, my family owned 3 of the regular Josefina books, and I think like 1 or 2 of the mini storybooks they used to have. They're like this big. They weren't the mystery books, but they're like tiny little books. Anyways, I don't know if I just didn't find her time period very interesting or what, but Josefina was never my favorite. I did like her stories better as I got older. I appreciate the unique personalities everyone has. I also think the fashions they had in this era are really pretty too, which I don't think I really cared for them much as a kid. The Mexican-American representation in this series is really important because I don't feel like this is really an era in history that's covered all that much, at least not in children's books. Whether it's how they celebrated Christmas or how they made bread, there are so many interesting aspects of how people in New Mexico lived in the 1820s. We even get to see more than one generation live in the same household, since Ana, Josefina's oldest sister, still lives on the rancho with her husband and their 2 little boys. So although Josefina wasn't a childhood favorite, today I'm going to rank her Follow Your Inner Star. Next up, we have one of the original 3 American Girl characters to be released, Kirsten Larson. Set in 1854, Kirsten and her family are Swedish immigrants who come to America to build a new life. Unfortunately, Kirsten's very time period is one of the reasons that younger me didn't find her very interesting. You see, I liked Little House on the Prairie, so another pioneer story in competition to that didn't have much of a chance. I found the Ingalls family more interesting than Kirsten's, and as someone who loved to read, the Little House on the Prairie series is a lot longer, so there's a lot more to read. If you take the time to read Kirsten's story, it is interesting, and it's also cool that we get to learn a little bit about Swedish culture. While Kirsten isn't perfect, she isn't a bad kid. She works hard, is brave, and she does her best to help her family. And so I think she absolutely deserves the tier ranking of Pleasant Company. In 1993, American Girl released their first African-American character, Addie Walker. Set in 1864 during the Civil War, the story begins on a southern plantation where Addie and her family are slaves. Once their owner starts selling some of Addie's family members, she and her mother go on the Underground Railroad to escape. The rest of the series follows Addie and her mother's journey to freedom and their life in the North. As a kid, I really liked Addie's story, and I think it still holds up as a good introduction to slavery in the Civil War for kids. For obvious reasons, Addie deals with a lot more struggle than the other American girls do, and despite that, still remains hopeful and kind. Because of everything she goes through, her eventual happy ending feels so well deserved. And I do appreciate that American Girls always get happy endings. These are books for kids after all. And so I'll be ranking Addie as one of the best American Girl characters of all time. Now we are back to one of the original American Girl characters, Samantha Parkington. Set in 1904, Samantha is an orphan being raised by her wealthy grandmother. Despite being rich, Samantha is not at all obnoxious about it, and she really does care about other people. Even though she makes mistakes, Samantha is proof that you can write a character who is kind, mind without making them or their story extremely tragic or boring. I feel like even the side characters in the Samantha series are interesting. Who could forget about Nellie or Uncle Guard? Even Grandmary is interesting. As a kid, I didn't like Samantha as well as I did Felicity, but I still read her books over and over. She was probably my second or third favorite character. As an adult, I still like Samantha, and like Addie, this is a series I would buy for my kids. You guessed it, I'm ranking Samantha as one of the best American Girl characters ever. Now let's jump ahead 10 years to American Girl's next historical character, Rebecca Rubin. Rebecca is a Jewish American girl living in New York City in the year 1914. It's cool to have a story about another immigrant family and see what it was like to have family members coming to America. I like Rebecca's family fine. It's just, Rebecca I'm not a huge fan of. The main thing about Rebecca is that she wants to be an actress, which is a profession her family doesn't approve of. But the reason I don't like Rebecca is because she's selfish, and sometimes her decisions even put herself and others in danger. To be fair, she is just a kid, and this sort of behavior is fairly common among the American Girl characters. However, usually when American girls do something like this, it's to help someone else. They have good intentions even if they don't make the best decisions. Running off in the middle of the night to steal a horse isn't a great example to any kids reading American Girl books, but at least Felicity was trying to help the horse. Rebecca's motivations seem pretty self-centered, and I don't remember her getting many consequences either. All of that to say, while I like the setting and the idea of Rebecca's story, I would probably give my kid the All of a Kind family to read instead, since that's also about a Jewish family living in New York in the 1910s. But now it's time to rank Rebecca, and I'm sorry to say, I don't know if I'm actually sorry to say. After all that, you've probably all seen it coming, but yes, I'm going to be ranking Rebecca as Don't Follow Your Inner Star. Sorry I got a little negative there. American Girl, like everything, isn't perfect. But despite their story's shortcomings, they really have provided a voice for girls in history. Publishing historical fiction books covering so many different time periods from the perspective of young girls was a valuable endeavor that has probably impacted millions of girls, giving them an accessible way to learn about history from a young age. Who knows, without American Girl books, maybe I never even would have published my first book. Emily's Christmas is a historical fiction book set in 1925 New England. Following a 9-year-old girl named Emily and her family throughout the holiday season, this book explores what Christmas was like in the 1920s. If you love historical fiction, or if you've ever wondered what Christmas was like 100 years ago, make sure to check out my book at the link in the description. Now, let's get back to the ranking. Next up, we have Kit Kittredge. Set in 1934, Kit is the American girl who represents the Great Depression. When Kit's dad becomes unemployed, her family's lives are changed forever. To help make ends meet, they turn their home into a boarding house, which Kit is initially pretty upset about. In Kit's books, we get to see the struggles that people went through during the Depression, along with the creative ways that they solved their problems and worked hard to make it through. While Felicity was the first American Girl character I was really invested in, by the time I was 9, Kit was definitely my other favorite. I liked Kit's personality. Her love of stories, tomboyishness, and mix of practicality and imaginativeness all appealed to me. Now that I think of it, I wonder if Kit's newspaper is what inspired me to start a newspaper of my own around that time. This was also around the time of the Kit Kittredge movie starring Abigail Breslin, so I'm guessing that Kit was probably a popular character among other girls my age too. And so, because I loved Kit so much as a kid, I will be ranking her as a childhood favorite. Although, if she wasn't a childhood favorite, I would still definitely rank her higher than Felicity. Just 10 years after Kit, we find ourselves in 1944 with Molly McIntyre during World War II. Since Molly lives in the United States, the war doesn't affect her life as tragically as it did so many other people. Despite the fact that Molly's dad is a military doctor who's away from the family for most of the series, at first, Molly doesn't take the war that seriously, which is perfectly normal for any 9-year-old in that position. That's why I think that having Emily Bennett come and stay with Molly's family was such a great idea, especially since Molly was one of the first American girls to exist and best friend dolls weren't even a thing yet. Living in the same house as Emily, who has dealt with some of the harsh realities of war such as bombings, really helps Molly understand the seriousness of the war. I don't remember reading much of the Molly series when I was young and was never really that interested in her, but when I finally did read her books, they were pretty good. Definitely a good introduction to World War II for kids. So I will be ranking Molly as Pleasant Company. From 1986 to 2007, Molly was the most modern American Girl. But in 2007, that all changed when American Girl released Julie Albright, a historical character from the 1970s. Julie was the first American Girl character to have divorced parents, and she also had to fight for a right to play on the school basketball team since she was a girl. But as someone who didn't play sports and whose parents weren't divorced, I didn't find either of those aspects very interesting or relatable. As a kid growing up in the 2000s and 2010s, Julie's world didn't seem all that different than the one I lived in. But it was cool she had a pet bunny, and it was interesting to learn about Chinatown in the 1970s. I did like the book where Julie went on the wagon train because that's just a really cool thing to be able to do. I also appreciate how Julie loved the Little House books and did not hesitate to tell people that the show was not the same. Personality-wise, I feel like I'm more like Julie's best friend Ivy than I am Julie, but I do admire how determined and optimistic Julie is because those are characteristics I'd like to have. And so I will be ranking Julie as Follow Your Inner Star. So that is my ranking of my favorite American Girl characters. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you'd like to read about what Christmas was like 100 years ago, don't forget to click the link in the description to check out my book. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye, bye, bye. It's time to say goodbye, bye, bye. Bye, bye, bye. It's time to go. Time's up, we're all done. Time for me to run. Bye, bye, bye. Bye, bye, bye.